the session is being recorded, and after we're done here, by tomorrow, the session will be up on our MarketMatch website as well. So thank you guys for attending our quarterly share of marketing ideas and information. Some quick housekeeping type things. There is a chat section on the bottom of your GoToWebinar control panel. If you have any questions along the way, please feel free to enter them into that chat, and we'll take a look, and we will be happy to address any questions you guys come up with. You know, these sessions are yours. You know, you'll get out of it what you put into it. So if you have any questions or have any comments along the way, please feel free to plug those in. Today we're going to be discussing the life stages for our customers and the customer lifetime value. Trying to better understand how we can have a communication, a smarter, more targeted communication with our customers, and identify the value of these individuals. And of course, as marketers, this is a vital equation for us, because we want to be able to show why we are targeting the individuals that we're targeting, what type of value that the bank or the credit union is getting from that, and we will discuss those in depth in the next 45 minutes or so. So without further ado, I am Eric Galliano, the Executive Vice President of MarketMatch, and on the phone also is Aaron Gregerson, a Vice President and one of our senior strategists. Aaron?
Hello, everybody, and thanks for joining us.
All right. You'll be hearing both of our voices as we co-present this afternoon. Yeah, that's us. There we go. Today we're going to cover, like I said, we will define life stages for you. We'll talk about the importance of life stages, helping to define the value of those and why you want to, why we recommend with many of our community bank and credit union clients that they move towards a life stage segmentation and targeting for their marketing. We'll also talk about lifetime value of the customer. We'll help define that, as well as automating life stages and adding personas to help your conversation with your customers and with your members. Now, as marketers, we're all familiar with the basic segmentation: baby boomers, millennials. Of course, millennials. I mean, you can't open up LinkedIn or any other professional marketing site without hearing about millennials, Gen X. You know, the basic standard segments that we've been using for forever. Now, I want to think back a little bit. Do you remember Gen X? Gen X being the Nirvana listening, flannel wearing, low ambition baristas living in mom and dad's basement. That was pretty much the extent of their ambition. That was in the 90s. And now here we are in 2016. Gen X is on the phone with you as a marketing consultant for MarketMatch and explaining to you how to better market to your customers and to your members. Very ambitious, very successful, and currently not wearing plaid. So Gen X, so we evolve. You know, the point is that if we stick with these basic segmentations, we're always going to be shooting at a moving target. People evolve, people grow up, people look at the world differently. And we know that each one of those segmentations, each one, Gen X, baby boomers, were built based on the environment and the culture that they grew up in. One of the things, as thinking about segmentation, that was really kind of mind-blowing to me is how, especially in America, many of our segments are built or are based on the wars that we lived through. Think about the nationalism and that there was before Vietnam. Think about World War I, World War II. You know, kids collecting cans and steel, and people buying bonds and doing whatever we could to help the war movement for America. Now you've got Vietnam, and every war since Vietnam, and think about how we look at things just a little bit differently, just based on what we grew up in. The technologies that we grew up in. If you talk about the greatest generation versus baby boomers versus Gen X and millennials, millennials don't know a world without cell phones. They don't know a world without internet. Gen X was just starting our careers for the most part when there was internet and cell phone. And of course, boomers were a little bit older, and they remember when there was only 3 TV stations. So, what we grew up in really defines who we are and why we think the way we do and the decisions that we make. But again, like I said, looking at just those basic segmentations is a moving target. And I want to use an example of that. Back in 2003, my world turned upside down. On March 22nd, 2003, I was invincible. I was Superman. I lived day to day. Nothing could touch me. I was going to live forever. On March 23rd, 2003, my son Ben was born, and my whole world changed. All of a sudden, I started thinking about things like life insurance. Never thought about life insurance before. Why? Because I was invincible. But within a week of Ben being born, I don't even think he was home from the hospital yet, and I was on the phone calling insurance companies. Then I did the unthinkable. For decades, I swear I was never going to have a minivan, but that sliding door looked awfully tempting after bashing in the garage doors into other cars and trying to squeeze car seats in. We all have been there. So yeah, I went up and got a minivan. And then finally, after a year or so, I thought, hey, you know what? This kid thing's not too bad. We went and had a second, and we needed a bigger house. Now, this isn't an uncommon story. Matter of fact, many of you guys on the phone probably lived through this yourselves. And if you look at this from a bank and credit union perspective, each one of those decisions based on Ben being born have financial implications. And so that's what we're talking about when we talk about life stage marketing. There are certain milestones in everybody's life that generate financial need. They generate significant change in the person's life, and those changes typically have financial needs. And if we can get out ahead of those things, then we can have very meaningful conversations with our customers, with our members. And very different conversations, because now we're not talking about an auto loan because we need you to get an auto loan. We're not talking about a checking account because we need you to get a checking account, but we're talking about a product that, based on other customers just like you who have gone through one of these life stages, one of these milestones, we understand, we know that you're going to need a certain set of products, and we are best equipped to help you with that because we understand what you're going through. Now, all of a sudden, your frontline staff's having a much different conversation, and you're having a different conversation than any other competitor in the marketplace. And that's why we think that life stages is so important. That's why we think it's so vital to understand these milestones that your customers are going through. Excuse me. So by identifying these stages, and again, if you didn't catch all of those stages on the previous slide, there will be a recording of this, or just email me at egalliano@marketmatch.com. The email will be up at the end of the session. We'll be happy to send you that list as well. But once we understand these, we can better cross-sell in our branches. And again, it's not selling so much as being the financial consultants that we want our frontline staff to be, to provide solutions and not just products to our customers. Because again, it's more engaging. We're helping to ask better questions. We can explore a little bit more what the customer's going through so that we could be more of a partner in this to help them along the way. It also helps to understand what their next product's going to be. Think about checking, for instance. If you find out, and many of us have this, especially in community banks and credit unions, you've got those customers or those members who are in your branch on a Friday afternoon when you've got a line out the front door, people wanting to deposit their paychecks, and you've got customers and members who know your staff. Everybody knows each other on a first-name basis, and they want to share what's going on in their lives. And they may be showing that big old diamond on their left hand that they just got the previous week and bragging to your tellers. Well, You can, in a situation like that, say, well, congratulations on getting engaged, and then move on to the next customer. Or if your staff is trained correctly and your staff understands life stages, then they can say, you know what, that is fantastic, Mary. Congratulations on getting engaged. You know, a couple of things we can help you out with. Have you started putting money aside for your honeymoon yet? What about a credit card? You're going to probably need a card on that honeymoon or for some of your wedding expenses. Do you have the best rate? Can we help you with that? Secondly, you're going to be thinking about, again, when we talk about next sell, possibly bringing your checking accounts together and having one joint checking account. We really would appreciate it if you have it here. So now all of a sudden you've had that opportunity that you guys have every single day in your branches, and you're turning it into something that your staff can use for the purposes of cross-selling and both helping the customer as well as the bank or the credit union. It also helps you understand future shifts in income. Right now, we know that the millennial generation, the reason it's so important, and you read some of the articles about it, is because it's huge. It's the next baby boomers. In fact, this will be the very first election that the baby boomers don't control the presidential election in sheer numbers. The millennials will, assuming they get out and vote. So with that large influx of individuals, we want to understand what's going on with them. We'll talk about that in a couple more slides, a little bit more in depth. Now, once you understand life stages, you can start to not only have better conversations, but have better communications. What you see on the screen right now are some examples that we've done for another client who is deep into life stage marketing. And you can see that instead of doing traditional product sheets, we do sales sheets based on the life stages. So if you're, we know that customers who are getting married have certain spending needs, they have certain savings needs, they have certain borrowing needs. We know what they're going to need in the near future. The same with a new home or graduation or a baby or what have you. So we can start putting sheets together, and we have for these folks where your sales staff are going to have different types of sales collateral to hand out. You can also have smarter social media conversations, onboarding, email campaigns, all of these things more one-to-one once we understand what's going on in the individual's life stage. Now, Aaron's going to talk a little bit about the value of your customers.
Thanks, Eric. And, that's a great introduction with covering everything that we know to be true about life stages and what our customers are going through on a day-to-day basis. And this next part, I want to take a step back and start talking about the value of the customer in terms of lifetime value, so CLTV for short. Or member lifetime value for our credit union friends out there. And, we do a really good job as financial institutions of measuring the snapshots right now. We take a snapshot from the database and take a look at profit margins and where our customers and members fit in. And so we know what their value is to the organization at a certain point of time. And the lifetime value equation really is trying to get to that next level. It's trying to predict or understand what the future value of your customer is based on some of the variables and factors that we know to be true about our organization. And this really goes back to a point that Eric made a couple of slides ago about understanding the shifts in income that are going to happen in your financial institution as generations and your customers go through different life stages. It's going to morph and change, and the boomers right now are a perfect example of a generation that is on the somewhat side of a decline with producing income for financial institutions because a lot of their lending years or borrowing years are over for them. They are trying to get to a point where they are debt-free to support their retirement. And so what does that mean for your organization as you take a look at the profit margins that you have right now with your customers and 5 or 10 years down the road? What's the lifetime value of those customers as they move through different life stages? And so the point of all of this is, of course, understanding that customers go through a pretty typical course of events as you acquire them and bring them into the organization, grow that relationship. They go into a maintain status, and then hopefully we retain them for some amount of time, either through taking out a long-term loan and having them stay a customer with your bank or credit union, or if we grow that relationship in other products and services that make that customer sticky to our organization. The point of all of this, of course, is to get most of our customers to where this red arrow is pointing and crossing that line from maintain over to retain, and creating a pretty steady lifetime value that we can understand. And so if we think about it in terms of trying to recoup some of those acquisition costs on the front end, getting to that retention status is really what's going to be important down the road. And that is the essence of what customer lifetime value is all about. But we need to take another step back and talk about how do we calculate customer lifetime value. And so I'm going to leave this up here for just a couple of seconds here and let everybody take a screenshot or jot down these equations. And I'll let you, figure out those variables in there. Okay, I'm just kidding. That is, of course, one of the more complex equations as we take a look at customer lifetime value and how it's equated, but it really breaks down to 3 simple steps in the idea of getting to what your customer lifetime value calculation is. So what we want to do is take the average annual profit margin of a customer and multiply that out by the average number of years that they are going to be a customer. So what is our average retention rate for our customers and members? And then reduce that profit by the amount of acquisition costs that we typically spend on acquiring new customers and any future marketing costs. So even with this very simple approach to customer lifetime value, we do see that there are a couple of variables in here that we have to know up front. And the 3 or 4 big ones, in my opinion, are knowing what your profit margin are on customers, and then moving that into what are your acquisition costs and future marketing costs. But the goal...
I don't know about our guests on the phone here, Aaron, but that's exactly what I got out of that equation. I mean, that's I think it's clear.
That I would agree, Eric. I mean, those numbers and all of those weird figures. You know what? I was told there would be no math, so let's just move on. So the goal, in our opinion, is to get to a point where we are presented with customer lifetime value that integrates life stage marketing. And what this is going to do is let us understand customer lifetime value for all of our customer segments as they go through different life stages. So we're taking essentially micro snapshots of different life stages and the products and services that we associate with those life stages, and attaching a profit margin to them and then linking them from one to the next, because we know what phases our customers are going through, correct? We understand that at a certain point in time, we typically have customers and members that graduate from college and get their first jobs. And what does that mean from a financial perspective and the life stage that they're going through? And then linking that up with that next logical life stage event. So we are representing opportunities to our current customers to reduce those acquisition costs so that they're not falling off of the spectrum. We're keeping that retention rate high. And because of that, because we are maintaining a very forefront piece of communication in their minds at all time, we're increasing their loyalty. We are their financial provider of choice. They keep coming back to us because we keep those lines of communication open with them. And then from the perspective of increasing profit, we are doing this through strategic life stage marketing, because again, if we can link from one life stage to the next, that increases the ability for us to add more products and services to a customer's profile, and thus increasing profit for the institution. But it all goes back to understanding that customer lifetime value is a moving target and moving equation, that we have to understand what the variables are that go into that, and that there is going to be value in each customer segment that we have. It just depends on which direction we feel we need to move them to better suit both the customer or the member and the organization at the same time. So the next stage in this process is thinking about the customer lifetime value, life stage marketing, and applying automation to that. Because from a bandwidth perspective, we know that your time is very valuable, and trying to integrate this into the holistic marketing picture is very time consuming. So the first thing we want to do, of course, is take a look at the typical customer life cycle again. So on this slide, we have two key tracks. We have the active customer that maintains a steady relationship going into retention with the financial institution. These are the 20% of our customers that do 80% of the business with us. And then we have the line below that, the orange line, that is representing a more typical customer lifecycle relationship in today's economy, because of the amount of options that are out there for our customers and their financial services providers. We see this drop off time and time again, because they are, they come to our financial institution for a specific purpose, a specific product that they're looking for, a great rate that we advertise. And once they get that need fulfilled and that term is complete, they slide into this inactivity. And if we don't do something about it, they become a lost customer. Now, because they're a part of our database and we can remarket to them, there is always the possibility to bring them back as an active customer. But that comes with increased costs as well. We have to reacquire them as a customer. I was just out at a conference last week that talked about really the ability and also the repetition that we see financial institutions doing in cleaning out their databases and getting rid of the quote unquote inactive or unprofitable customers that they have on their customer rolls right now. And the argument of the gentleman that was presenting was that is just gold mines worth of data. Why should we ever let IT clean out our databases and get rid of those $5 checking accounts that have been sitting there, when we are maintaining information about a customer that we can use to our advantage on the marketing side and remarket to those people and get out back in front of them. So the idea here being that, of course, we want to avoid this lost customer scenario, and that gets into our next slide here in talking about introducing automation into the process. And so what we see here is a sideways sales funnel. So many of you are probably very familiar with the sales funnel process, going from awareness on out, down into consideration and conversion, where they become a customer of the organization. And on this side, and for these purposes, we're talking about marketing versus what do we turn into the sales side of things. So we have this marketing automation database that is out there producing leads and marketing to potential customers in ways that allows them to then convert into being a customer and being a part of our database that we know so much information about them. So the key with introducing automation into life stages is representing those opportunities, recycling those opportunities to make our current customers prospects again. And so this is, of course, the practice of trying to link those life stages one by one together so that we know when they are about to reach the end of one life stage or one cycle within a life stage and start a new one. So what are those key triggers that we need to be looking for on the opportunity side so that we are turning them back into a prospect and marketing to them as if they are not already a customer of the organization, putting on a fresh set of lenses and looking through them again as trying to convert them into repetitious sales. Of course, this becomes a much lower cost alternative than trying to go out and seek out completely new business by creating awareness and moving them on down through the funnel. So as I mentioned, this is really all about representing opportunities, and CLTV life stage marketing means that you're bringing together three key pieces of information that you have at your financial institution. It's the marketing data that we have on our customers already, and tying that in with the audience platforms or personas, the communications that we have in place, and driving that into marketing automation and having that all work together very seamlessly so that these opportunities and these triggers are set up, and we really don't have to do very much besides supply the content and the messaging that goes along with it. And then finding out down the road where is that key part of the process where we're reaching that consideration phase, the heightened consideration phase for a current customer that is transitioning into a different life stage, and when do we really need to ramp up efforts to perhaps create a more personal connection. So this all goes back to trying to increase our customer lifetime value. And this means that we're targeting very well. We, again, know and understand what our life stages are with our customers. We have information on what is the next likely life stage, the next recommended product that we need to put in front of our customers, because we know what those financial needs are at the next life stage. I think of it for myself being of the millennial generation. My wife and I just went through the process of buying our first home together, and we had a baby earlier last year, and going through the process of raising a child. Right now, financial planning for retirement is so far off in my mind that I don't even know what's associated with that. Like, I just know I'm putting money away from my retirement and into investments that I hope are going to pay off someday. But realistically, at this point, I don't know what those financial tools look like to turn those assets into income-producing assets for my retirement years. And nor should I really be concerned about that at this point in my life. But at some point, I am going to have to be concerned about that. But getting back to that lifetime value piece, we know what that looks like from the perspective of having customers and members of ours that are already going through that. So we can point out the triggers for the life stage before that and link it up very well. The next piece of it is pricing ourselves appropriately and contextually. And what I mean by that is, referencing the retail market right now, specifically the online retail market, and the games that I like to play with online retailers. And that is to set up an account, sign into the account, go shopping on the site. And Amazon is a perfect example of this. Put something in my Amazon cart that I think maybe is priced a little bit too high for my taste, and then wait a couple of days and see what happens. Because inevitably, Amazon is going to send me an email saying, hey, you left this in your cart. Why don't you come back and purchase it? And then maybe a couple of days later, they go, you know what? The price just went down on this. What do you think about that now? And trying to bait and get me to go back and purchase that good from them because the price has dropped. And we see this happening all over the place. In fact, just this morning, my wife was telling me about a Shutterfly book that she was creating, where they sent her an email for 40% off all projects that are saved in your Shutterfly account, trying to jumpstart her into getting back into Shutterfly and completing that purchase. So we can take that context and apply it to life stage marketing. We can price ourselves appropriately to ensure that we are seeing success with the opportunities that we are representing to our customers. And this may be, very much as simple as looking at an auto loan that is in the period where we know our customer to either refinance that auto loan to another bank or credit union, or they're going to be replacing that vehicle and shopping for yet another loan, and presenting them with opportunities that perhaps add more value to the offer that we are getting them. Starting out with, just the general message of make sure you come back to us for our refinance needs, and offering the best rate possible, and perhaps that one-on-one connection where we are creating a specific line that they can call to get the loan right as they're on the dealer lot. So we're increasing that value at the same time that we are pricing ourselves in a contextual way that is putting ourselves in front of the customer right up front.
All right. Great information. Wow. And I want to remind everybody too that a lot of those slides you just saw had an enormous amount of information on it. If you didn't grab screen captures, we will be providing this entire presentation via recording on the MarketMatch website. It should be up tomorrow. We will let everybody out there know when it is available for you to relook at or for you to share with your staff. Now we want to transition a little bit and talk about life stages and personas. And when you think about personas for life stages, you think about personas in general, personas are an incredible way for you to tell a better story. As somebody who is not only strategically minded about it, but creatively minded, this helps us to have marketing that speaks directly to an individual. A persona is when you essentially stereotype, for lack of a better terminology, an individual. You draw a story about a particular individual that is the epitome of your life stage. Now, if you think about it, there can be more than one story for each life stage, only because we do have millennials, a millennial going through getting married, for instance, will have a different story possibly than a Gen X going through getting married, or maybe a baby boomer going through getting married for the second or third time. So those are three completely different personas you would want to build. This is where we take life stage marketing and overlap it with traditional segmentation and tell stories about those particular individuals. This way we know more about them. We know what their wants, their needs, their desires. We know what motivates them, what drives them. And it'll help us to do some of those things that Aaron was talking about from a pricing and a value and just from a creative standpoint. What do our personas tell us? One of the important things, and especially with the importance of the size of the millennial market. The millennial market is kind of turning everything on its ear to a certain extent, much like the baby boomers did back in the 60s. Millennials now, we know, are getting married later if they choose to get married at all. They are typically, because they really don't remember a time with good rates on, high rates on mortgages, but with good home values. They're choosing to rent a little longer. They're not as likely to follow the traditional graduate, get a job, get married, get a house timeline that so many individuals before them had done. So again, if we understand these personas, we can better define the segments. Really laying life stages on top of traditional segments like boomers or X or millennials is really next level stuff. It's really understanding your customers and your members down to a point where you can have one individual that really sums up who they are, and you can write to that person. We already talked about the next best opportunities, but it will give you an opportunity to get out ahead a little bit, to not just talk about a product because that's what that's what the ALCO meeting came back with and said we need to talk about, but really being an institution that can talk more one-on-one with your customers and with your members, crafting messages that are specific. We know that we've got great information in our databases. This is how we take advantage of that. This is how we craft marketing plans and marketing messages that boil it down to what somebody's going through and overlap with the culture that they've grown up with and the wants and the needs and what motivates them. Life stages really are a window into your customer's world, into your customer's soul. It gives you an opportunity, even here as a 44-year-old, middle-class male, for me to sit back and think about what a 25-year-old female just graduating college and starting her career might be going through or might need and might want. And again, as marketers on the line, that's our strength. It's having that ability to be a chameleon, to walk into somebody else's shoes, to have empathy and understand and feel what it's like to be in somebody else's situation. It's only for a few minutes while we try and determine what it is that we want to tell these folks. And again, overlapping the life stages and into the segmentation and creating personas is really going to help you to do that. It also helps the customer to know they're not alone. Think about this for a second. We open up dozens of auto loans every single day. A typical customer probably gets maybe 5 or 6 in their lifetime. Mortgages, we do dozens and dozens of mortgages every single day. A typical customer maybe gets 2 or 3, maybe, in their lifetime. So when a customer comes to us, when they walk in our front door, we know that their tension level increases, we know their heart rate increases, we know that they're a little bit uncomfortable. We know that they're looking for somebody who can make things easy, a trust factor. We don't sell checking accounts, we don't sell loans, we sell trust as a community bank or a credit union. And when we talk to somebody and say, listen, we understand what you're going through. If we have sales collateral, like we showed earlier in the presentation, that speaks specifically to a life stage that they're going through, it tells them, you know what, we've got this. You're a little nervous. You're looking for some consultation. You're looking for somebody to hold your hand, and we do this all the time as your bank or your credit union. We got this. And all of a sudden, then the tension level goes down. The pulse goes down. We can now have a better conversation and a better relationship with the customer. And that's where the value comes in. That's what helps the customer see the value in your financial institution. When you're more than just a checking account, you're more than just a loan closing, you're more than just a payment every month, but you're actually somebody who's going to take a very stressful situation and turn it into something that's super easy because we've got it. We do it all the time. And we're going to do it in such a way that it's crafted to what you're going through in your life right now. And that's what's going to differentiate you from the Regions, the Chases, the Wells Fargos, the Fifth Thirds in your market, because they sure as hell aren't doing this. Aaron, there's a lot of letters up here. I'm hoping you know what they mean, brother.
Thanks, Eric. Yeah, so the next part of this is really trying to fit all of the puzzle pieces back together from what we've talked about. And just to kind of recap real quick here, we've talked about life stages and why they're important. We've talked about calculating customer lifetime value. We have talked about mixing in personas and actually, telling a story with our life stages and identifying how many stories that needs to be per life stage just based on our customers. And so how do we make that all fit together and work for our financial institution? Well, it is a multi-step, multi-stage approach. And it looks a little bit like the serpentine belt in your car. It's not a straight line. There's going to be different ins and outs just depending on your own organization, how you can pull information together that you know about your customers right now, how you're calculating lifetime value for your customers. But it moves through these very basic steps that we have up on the screen here of establishing what your life stages are if you have not already, measuring the customer lifetime value for those life stages, and designing those next best opportunities to then represent opportunities to do more business with your bank or credit union as a customer goes through life stages, which pulls out and extends that retention rate and customer lifetime value. And we all want to do this in a very automated way. So the first step in doing all of this, in our opinion, an easy place to start is putting plans into actions by identifying the top 5 product triggers per life stage. Eric, if you could advance it for me. There we go. So what we're really looking to get at here is designing a matrix that has all of the opportunities laid out per life stage with the triggers that are associated with those life stages. So once we can map that out and we attach it with very simple messaging. So there's no need to get too in-depth at this point with the messaging. That will come a little bit later. But we get to the end of the matrix here, and where we see the customer going or where we feel we want them to go, and then that'll help us link it up with the next life stage and the next most likely opportunity for them to continue doing business with us. And so talking about the auto loans a little bit earlier in the presentation here, we know what the average term on our auto loans are. We can kind of identify those triggers. If we have systems in place that help us look at when people are having their credit pulled for auto loan opportunities, that really helps us. And then we can drive that all through our delivery channels to reach our customers in ways that are life stage appropriate. So utilizing the channels that we have now, we know, and many of you have done the work to find out how our customers prefer receiving information from the bank or credit union. And so we can use that information to represent those opportunities in an automated way to them. And I want to point out at this juncture that it really doesn't mean that we should eliminate things like direct mail, because we do see a pretty good lift in response rate from people receiving actual physical letters in the mail these days. A lot of that has to do with, in my opinion, the adverse reaction we're seeing to tons and tons of email coming through. That when someone receives something in the mail, they're likely to open it, take a look at it, and do something about it. And so using information like that to hit these opportunities at the stage that they need to be hit at, and then doing that through multiple channels to make sure that we see engagement there. And what that does is help us create a contextual omnipresence for the customer. And what I mean by that is we want to appear like we have an always-on approach for our customers, but we don't want to be overwhelming with it. So the goal here is to make it seem like we are meeting their needs and their when we need to be for each specific customer or customer segment. Because if we start just blasting things out on all of our channels all of the time, that becomes overwhelming for all of our customer segments, and they're more likely to turn that switch off and just ignore what we have. So creating that contextual omnipresence where we're reaching them in ways that they want to be reached in the time that they want to be reached in. And the last piece of it is knowing what your goals are. Create those milestones, those checkpoints, just like we have for our customers as we create the life stages that they're going through, to ensure that your life stage marketing program that's bringing in the customer lifetime value is operating within the goals and parameters that you have set up. So we can measure all of that and know that we are making progress on achieving this idea of extending the retention rate and increasing our lifetime value equation. So with that, I want to thank you all so very much for your time this afternoon. I really appreciate your attendance here at the webinar. Up on the screen here is both my and Eric's contact information if you have any questions about the information that was presented here today. Looks like we are right smack dab on time at 45 minutes, which is a huge round of applause for Eric and myself, because I know that we love to talk.
Well, now wait a minute. We've got 60 seconds, and this would be a great time. Thank you, Jim, for the good job mentioned. If anybody has any questions, we certainly, we will take as much time here as you all are willing to give. If anyone has any questions or comments, please either raise your hand on the control panel or put it into the questions or the chats. Jim, if you have a question, Gary, Krista, Tom, anybody else who's on the line, this is a good time for us to share or to have questions, to maybe go in a little bit further in depth or clarify something that that you may have heard. I'll give it a few seconds. I see people dropping out, but I don't see anybody raising hands. Any questions on life stages or customer value or automation or personas or anything like that? Okay, well,
and again, I'll point out that for those that are left on the line, again, MarketMatch.com is our website. The presentation will be up on MarketMatch.com's homepage tomorrow, so you can go and share that with your staff if you'd like, or just watch it again for your own enjoyment.
All right, thanks everybody. Take care. I hope you you can finish the week with some great mojo. Take care.